You know how when you have a really awesome mod, but then you go into the piece of gear that you're supposed to put the mod in, and you can't find it, it's not there. And then you find out that the mod has a special affinity that it can only be put into armor pieces that has a solar affinity, for example. Then you want to change the energy type, but then you discover that if you do so, you lose all of the energy unless you pay an insane price to change the affinity. And also, if you change the affinity, then there's other mods that you can't use anymore. Why would you even spend all of the materials to change the affinity? How do you know if you should change the affinity? What is masterworking? What do you use it for? Why would you do it? Someone help me! Don't worry guys, Rolson is here to explain all of this shit to you. And so in this video I'll go through everything you need to know about armors. Since they introduced the Armor 2.0 system where you can masterwork your armor pieces, you can put a lot of mods in your armor, you can have different stats on your armor and all of that stuff. We'll go through it all so that you have a complete understanding before you start wasting all of your materials masterworking the wrong things. The Transmog system has also had a great impact on this, so I'll just go through how that affects masterworking armor pieces as well. Hi guys, welcome to Gaming Watcher. My name is Rolson and in this video we're going to talk about armor. Now in the comment section I want to know what is your current favorite mod and what affinity does it have? What affinity do you in general have on your armor pieces? Do you run like a complete solar build, a void build, an arc build? Let's get some mod suggestions down in the comment section so we can all learn from each other. I'll start. I'll leave the first comment with my current favorite mod and what affinity it has and what armor piece it fits into. Also, if you enjoy the content that I make here on this channel, please make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell as well. Okay guys, that's enough with all of that. Let's go look at Armor 2.0. So, the first thing that I want to talk about here is masterworking armor pieces. When an armor piece is masterworked, it has this like golden frame around it. So you can see all of my armor pieces here are masterworked. What masterworking means is just that you get this up to 10 energy. So if we look at an armor piece that is not masterworked, this one for example, it has 8 energy. And you can see here I can click on it to upgrade the armor to have more energy. It cost me 2 enhancement prisms and some legendary shards and some glimmer. And so I can upgrade this to be fully upgraded. The last one, if I want to get it from 9 to 10, I'll need ascendant shards. Now those are the currency that is really the most difficult to get, and you'll have to do something like Master Nightfalls or Grandmaster Nightfalls to get this currency, or you can buy it from Banshee. I have a whole guide on how to farm ascendant shards. You can go look at that if you want to. The point is, when you masterwork your armor piece, as you can see down here, you will increase all of the stats on the armor piece, and so you get better mobility, resilience, recovery, discipline, intellect, and strength whenever you masterwork an armor piece. So that in itself is pretty good, and it helps you just be better at the game and have better gear in general. But there's another thing, and that is the energy. Like I mentioned, the more energy you have, the more much you can equip on a certain piece of armor. So if you go back to my masterworked helmet here, this has 10 energy, and if you see the little numbers here in the right hand corner of the mods, this is the energy cost of that specific mod. So some mods cost a lot, 4 energy or 5 energy, or there's one seasonal mod at the moment that costs like 7 energy. That's a very high energy cost for a mod. But so the more energy you have, the more mods you will be able to equip and the more powerful mods you will be able to equip. So I can actually upgrade this one, so I just get more resilience than if I had the kind of light version equipped. This gives me 10 resilience instead of 5 resilience. So you can kind of just equip more powerful mods and like a higher quantity of mods as well. And so that is why you want to masterwork your armor. But as you could see, it's very expensive in terms of materials, so you also kind of need to think about what armor pieces you want to masterwork. And what I mean by that is you have to look at the stats down here of the specific armor piece. So if you just go out here and we look at all of the stats of my different armor pieces, you can see that some of them on Masterwork, this has a total of 83, and this one Masterworked has a total of 75. So I've gotten more out of masterworking this one than this one. Now there's also differences to keep in mind in terms of the distribution of the stats. So like this one, for example, has absolutely no recovery, and this one is low in intellect, for example. This one is very low in discipline, and so on and so forth. So every time you get a piece of armor, you can kind of look at those stats. And let's just go through what the stats mean. So you can see them out here, and there's also an explanation for them. Mobility reduces the cooldown of your class ability, increases your movement speed and maximum jump height. High mobility is generally good for something like PvP or hunters, because you move faster and you get your dodge back quicker, and your dodge lets you like automatically reload your weapon or turn invisible or something like that. Resilience increases the amount of damage you can take before dying, so that's pretty simple, but depending on the activity you're doing, this might be more important than some other activities. This is more important in some activities than in others, and I'll talk about that, but let's just go through all of these so we know what these different stats are. Recovery increases the speed at which you regain lost health. Discipline decreases the cooldown time of your grenades, allowing you to use them more often. Intellect decreases the cooldown of your super ability, allowing you to use it more often. Strength decreases the cooldown time of your melee ability, allowing you to use it more often. So it's really simple. So depending on the build that you're trying to make or the activity that you're doing, you want to kind of try and maximize these stats. Now I want to say, this is only really relevant in the endgame activities. So like if you want to do a Grandmaster Nightfall, it can be very helpful to have the exact right stats for that specific Nightfall. And also if you're doing something like Trials of Osiris, which is the PvP endgame, you might get an upper hand by having exactly the right stats for your exact build. So just to name an example, if you're doing some build, like I made the guide with 3 hunter melee builds. If you're building around melee, you might want to have armor pieces with a high strength stat, so that you get your melee ability back as quick as possible. And the same with all of the other abilities. What has changed about this with the Transmog system is that before, if you wanted your armor to look a certain way, so for example, this arm is from the Garden of Salvation raid. So let's say that I wanted these arms for my hunter because of the look, and now I want also to have a specific role. Let's say I want this, the high intellect role on this arm. So the only way I could get that was to go through the Garden of Salvation raid again and again and again, hoping that I'll get arms from the chests in the raid, and also hoping that I'll get arms with this high intellect role. Well, now instead of that, I can go into the customization screen and I can just put on the ornament, which is actually what I've done. So if you look here, I've actually just put on, this is the arm from the Deepstone Crypt raid, and then I've just put on the ornament here from the Garden of Salvation. So this is what is awesome about the Transmog system in terms of armor and masterworking armor, is that now I can get the right stats from any armor drop. If like playing any activity, if I get the right stats on that specific piece of armor that drops, I can just put on the ornament from the Garden of Salvation raid and I will have the look of that armor piece. So in that way, it's become way more easy to kind of grind for specific stat rolls and also get the look that you want on your armor pieces. Let's look at mods and affinity. To find all of your mods, you can go to your collections here and go to mods. And so in here you can see all of the mods divided by which kind of armor piece they can fit into. And on the different mods you can see what affinity the mods have. And so this is an arc mod, this is a solar mod, this is a void mod. This just means that this mod, for example, can only be slotted into an armor piece that has an arc affinity. So the point is, some of the mods, a few of the mods actually, it's not that many of them, but a few of the mods have special affinities and can only work with certain armor affinities. And so, if you're creating a special build, like if you, for example, are using Warmind cells and you want to make a build with this, the Wrath of Rasputin, and Burning cells, for example, and Fireteam Medic, like if you want to use those 3, you will have to have several armor pieces with solar affinity. And so you can see I don't really have it. Oh yes, my cloak is solar affinity, and so I have the Burning cells mod on this. But if I want to use any of the other, I would have to change the affinity of some of these armor pieces. Now, if you have a fully masterworked armor piece, you can choose to either change the affinity for one upgrade module and then go through all of the steps of masterworking it once again, or you can choose this option and change the affinity and get it fully masterworked as well. You can see here that it's really expensive in terms of materials, but if you have spent the materials already masterworking this armor piece and you really just need to change the affinity to create this special build with more mind cells or charged with light mods or elemental well mods or whatever, then it can definitely be worth it. The reason why you should think about this a little bit is that, like I said, it is really expensive, and if you want to change this back to another affinity, that's going to be equally expensive. So you might want to have several kind of loadouts of armor sets that have different affinities and different stats rules on them. So let's say that you want to create the perfect armor set for doing Grandmaster Nightfalls, and you want to use these mods that I just talked about that has the solar affinity. So you might want to find some armor pieces that has high resilience or high recovery to go into that Nightfall, and then you might want to change their affinity to solar so you can equip all of those Warmind cell mods that you want to use for that build, and then you can kind of in that way create this perfect armor set for doing this Grandmaster Nightfall or whatever it is that you want to do. It might be that you want a special build for PvP and you just want all of your armor pieces to have high mobility, and then you want to use some special charged with light mods on the armor set, and so you change the affinity to like void for all of them. It's just, there's so many different combinations, but that is why you would even go into something like affinity or masterworking or farming for high stat armor pieces. So how do you know if you have a high stat armor piece? Well, one thing is looking at the individual stats and seeing like, oh, this is high resilience or this is high strength or whatever, but also note this, the total, the sum of all the stats, because it tells you kind of like how good the armor piece is. So let's say that this, for example, was like 61 instead, then I know this is like in general this is a better armor piece than the 51 stat one, because when I masterwork it, it will be equally higher than this one. So that's kind of looking at the overall stats of the armor piece. But then if you're going for a specific stat roll, what you want is you want that specific stat to be high. So as you can probably see from my stats, I haven't really like maximized any of the stats. This is not really something that I've gotten into too much before, but I feel like I'm beginning to get there. Like I'm beginning to get into that real late end game space where I want to go for the adept weapons and I want to go for all of these things that are really difficult in the game. And so I'm beginning to try and look at these different stats and what stats that I want, what builds that I want to create with this, and try to farm for those armor pieces. Good places to farm for armor pieces are something like dungeons and raids, because you get a lot of rewards throughout those activities. You don't get the one chest at the end, you get like several chests throughout, especially dungeons, because they're also kind of quick. Doing the Pit of Heresy, for example, doesn't really take that long, and you might get some good rolls from it. And also Prophecy also rewards powerful and pinnacle rewards. So if you're still on that pinnacle grind, you might do that and look for some good armor piece rolls in there. And just remember, you can always change the appearance of the armor because of the Transmog system, so don't really worry too much about that. Just look at the stats and look at the specific stat. If you're curious about how to farm for these materials to masterwork your armor pieces, I have made guides for all of them. I've made guides for how to farm enhancement cores, how to farm enhancement prisms, and how to farm ascendant shards. So go look at my farming guides if you want to know the most efficient ways of farming these materials. There's a lot that you can do with your armor, but it really only gets relevant in the late end game when you want to do like Grandmaster Nightfalls or Master like Nightmare Hunts or Master Law Sectors and stuff like that. Or if you want to go into something like Trials of Osiris, with like PvP endgame. Very late endgame activities require you to really be totally optimized in your build in terms of stats and mods and so on. And so at that point, it really makes sense to start masterworking all of your armor pieces and going for specific loadouts and specific stats on your armors. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.